Hello dear students, I welcome you for this second lecture of the chapter number 5, that is Kingdoms of Life. So we are dealing with the subject Fundamentals of Systematics. We have already discussed the first part of this lecture in form of introduction to the Kingdom Monera. In today's discussion, we are going to deal with the remaining 4 kingdoms, that is Kingdom Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So let's take a brief recap of previous lecture. In previous lecture, we have studied the history and introduction to 5 kingdom classification system. So we have seen how this 5 kingdom system has evolved. Earlier there was 2 kingdom system proposed by Linnaeus. Then come the 3 kingdom system, followed by the 4 kingdom system of the Copeland, and finally this 5 kingdom system which was proposed by R.H. Whittaker in the year 1969. Then we have seen what are the criteria which are used for this 5 kingdom classification system. Then we have taken overview of the basic characteristics of this 5 kingdom classification system. And finally we have started with the first kingdom, that is Kingdom Monera, which basically includes all the unicellular prokaryotes. So we have classified them into Archaebacteria, Eubacteria and Mycoplasmas. Mycoplasmas being the smallest organisms living on this earth. So the session objective for today's lecture will be, we are going to study the overview of the first kingdom, that is Kingdom Protista. So what are the characteristics of this kingdom, how this kingdom is classified into further groups. Then we will study the third kingdom of this 5 kingdom system, that is Kingdom Fungi, which was the newly created kingdom by Robert Whittaker. So we will see what are the different groups of this Kingdom Fungi, what are their characteristics with some examples. Then we will take overview of the fourth kingdom of this system, that is Kingdom Plantae. Now Plantae was already present in the previous system, but how this was further divided into different groups by Whittaker. So we will study that, and in the last part of today's discussion we are going to study the Kingdom Animalia. What are the characteristics of these organisms which are belonging to the Kingdom Animalia, and finally we will sum up with the merits and demerits of this 5 kingdom classification system. So the objective for today's first part will be introduction to the Kingdom Protista. So after completing this part, you will be able to understand what are the basic characteristics of the protist and how to classify protist into different groups. So let's begin with Kingdom Protista. So what are protista? So this protist word is basically derived from a Greek word which means the primitive organisms. So this terminology protista was first coined by the scientist Ernst Haeckel in the year 1866. And this is a very large group of organisms which includes mostly the unicellular eukaryotes. So we have studied the group or the Kingdom Monera, where we have classified all the unicellular prokaryotes. In this kingdom we have classifying the unicellular eukaryotes. So this group basically have different organisms which are autotrophic as well as heterotrophic in nature. So some examples like autotrophs we have euglenias and heterotrophs like protozoans. Now let's take an overview of different characteristics of the Kingdom Protista. So if you see the habitat of these organisms, they are mostly found in the aquatic areas. So they are freshwater as well as marine organisms, so living in both freshwater and marine conditions. Now if you see the cell wall of these organisms, it is usually absent, and it is present in some of the protists. For example, diatoms, which have the cell wall which is made up of silica. Now these are, if you see the mode of nutrition of the protists, they are either photosynthetic or sometimes they are non-photosynthetic, or they can be heterotrophs. If you see the mode of reproduction, it is asexually as well as sexually. So both the modes of reproduction are present in the protist. It involves cell fusion as well as zygote formation processes. And if we see the locomotion, it may be with the help of cilia or flagella as well as pseudopodia, or sometimes there are some protists in which locomotion is totally absent. Now we will see the first group of these protists, those are known as chrysophytes. So what is meant by chrysophytes? So these are the organisms which live in the aquatic environment. So they can live in the marine as well as freshwater conditions, and this is basically including all the diatoms and the golden algae. So they are basically photosynthetic organisms which contain chlorophyll, carotene and xanthophyll in their cell. So these are basically the different type of pigment based on which they get colors. Now if we see the cell wall of this organism is made up of cellulose or silica, and diatoms are the main representative of these organisms which are producers in the oceans. So they are present in very large number and they serve as a food to the entire ecosystem. Now if we see the mode of reproduction, it is sexual as well as asexual mode of reproduction is present. Now we come to the second group of the kingdom Protista, that is dinoflagellates. Now if we see the literal meaning of this word, di means two and flagella means having flagella. So these organisms possesses two flagella in their structure. Out of them, one is transverse in position and second one is longitudinal in position. The literal meaning of the word dino is whirling. So the flagella which is present show the whirling movement in their body structure. So if we see this group, they are neither plants or neither they are animals. Okay, so this is a distinctive group present in the protozoans. If we see all protozoans, there are some protozoans which are plant-like, there are some protozoans which are animal-like, and there are some which do not have the feature of those two. So dinoflagellate belongs to that category. Now we have seen the habitat is freshwater or marine. They live in the both conditions, and mode of nutrition, if we see, they are basically, most of them are photosynthetic because they have the pigment for the photosynthesis, or some of them show the ingestive mode. Those are heterotrophic in nature. Now they show different pigments in their body or the cell. Basically they are unicellular, so the cell has different types of pigment. Some dinoflagellate have yellow color pigment, some have green, brown, blue or red. Depending on this pigment, there are different species of dinoflagellates. If we see the mode of reproduction in these dinoflagellate, it can be sexual as well as asexual, but most of the organisms show the asexual mode of reproduction. Now one example, that is red dinoflagellates, commonly called as goniolics. They grow very large in number, sometimes in the sea, and that results into a phenomena that is known as a red sea. So the entire sea appears red in color. Sometimes even these red dinoflagellates release some toxins which can kill the other organisms in that particular ecosystem or environment. So in this picture you can see a typical structure of a dinoflagellate cell. Now we come to the third group of the protists. Those are called as euglenoids. So you must have known the organism Euglena, so which has feature of plants as well as animals. Okay, so all these organisms which have some feature of plant and some feature of animals, they are classified into a group that is called as euglenoids. They are having the feature of plants like photosynthesis, and they have feature of animals like motile. So that's why they have the dual features of plant as well as animals. Now if we see the habitat, they can be seen in the freshwater habitat as well as mostly in the stagnant waters. So you do not find euglenoids in the marine environment, but they are exclusively present in the freshwater environment, basically in the stagnant ponds or lakes. Then if we see the structure of the cell wall is entirely absent, and they have the presence of pellicle which is rich in proteins, and due to this pellicle the cell gets the flexibility. They have two flagella, we have already seen they have two flagella, and the chlorophyll pigment is present, due to which they are photosynthetic in nature. And it is said that they have acquired this chlorophyll from the algae during the course of evolution. So during the course of evolution, sometime they have ingested the algae, and later on these algae and Euglena have formed a symbiotic relationship. So they are mostly photosynthetic when light is present, but when light is absent they can switch to the second mode of nutrition, that is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. And if we see their mode of reproduction, they can reproduce sexually as well as asexually, but mostly they will show the sexual mode of reproduction. For example, Euglena is a representative example from euglenoids. So in this picture you can see a typical Euglena cell. Okay, now we come to the next class of protists, that is slime molds. So if we see these slime molds, which they are slimy in appearance, so that's why they get their name as slimy molds. They are fungus like protists. So basically if we earlier the slime molds were classified along with fungus because they resemble the fungus, but later on when the structure of the cell wall was studied, it was seen that fungus cell wall is made up of chitin, but this cell wall of slime molds is made up of other components. Then you have the heterotrophic saprophytic protists. You call them as heterotrophic organisms, and they are basically saprophytes, that means decomposers. So they basically depend on other organism for their food requirement. So they can feed on to the bacteria, yeast and fungi which are present in the soil. Sometimes they even form the aggregates. Such aggregates are referred to as plasmodium, and they may grow for several feet. So in the next slide I will show you a picture. Cell wall is retained even when they are living in the aggregation kind of a condition. So if we see their habitat, they mostly prefer to live in the shady places which are moist. So moist decaying areas, soil, lawn or the forest floor are the habitat of this organism. Now very important feature is they are extremely resistant for the desiccation, and they can survive the adverse condition for many years. So even under adverse condition they can survive, and the reproduction is basically asexual using the spores. So in this slide you can see the picture of a typical slime mold, how they grow in branching manner. Now we come to the last part of this section, that is protozoans. So protozoans are basically animal like protists. Now we come to a category which resemble like animals. They do not have cell walls. Their habitat is aquatic, or they prefer the moist habitat. Do not find them without water. If we see the nutrition of the protozoans, they are basically heterotrophic in nature, and they are sometimes they can be predators or parasites. By parasites we mean that they are dependent onto the host body cell, and by predators we mean that they require some organism as their food. So they basically show the animal like nutrition, which is holozoic mode of nutrition. And these protozoans are further classified into 4 groups, that is amoeboid protozoans. The example is entamoeba. Flagellated protozoans, you have example of trypanosomes. Ciliated protozoans which have cilia, so example is paramecium. And finally sporozoans, example is plasmodium. Now let's come to the second part of today's discussion. So after completing this part, the learner should be able to understand the basic characteristics of the kingdom fungi and the different groups which are present in the fungi. So let's begin with kingdom fungi. First we'll see the basic characteristics of the fungi. So these fungi, they are unicellular or usually multicellular eukaryotes. So they are eukaryotes. They can be unicellular or multicellular in nature. They are achlorophyllous heterotrophs because they cannot produce the chlorophyll pigment. So they are dependent on other organisms for their food requirements. If you see, their body is thalloid and it is made up of mycelium. So they have the presence of branched structures which are called as hyphae, and which further give rise to a structure called as mycelium. So this mycelium is made up of hyphae, and they have different mode of nutrition. Some are parasites, for example Puccinia, saprophytes, which are eating other organisms like yeast and agaricus. These are the saprophytes. You have symbionts which live in association with other organisms, like we have lichens, and sometimes they are even associated with the roots of higher plants. For example, mycorrhiza is an example of the association. Okay, now if we see, the cell wall of this fungi is made up of chitin. So this is a peculiar feature to identify a fungal cell. If we see the mode of reproduction, it can be vegetative mode of reproduction, that is by fragmentation, fission and budding, or it can be asexual mode of reproduction by formation of sporangiophores and conidia. Then they can also have sexual mode of reproduction. So different ways are there, like plasmogamy, karyogamy, meiosis, resulting in the formation of haploid spores like ascospores and basidiospores. So now the first group of this kingdom fungi is called as phycomycetes. So what are phycomycetes? They are basically found in the aquatic habitats, and they prefer to live in the dead decaying matter like wood or any other decaying matter they can feed on. They are also referred to as obligate parasites of the plants. Mycelium, if you see their mycelium, which is made up of hyphae, it is aseptate and cenocytic in nature. They show asexual mode of reproduction by the formation of zoospores. So this is a peculiar feature of them, and two types of spores are produced, that is zoospores, which are motile in nature, and then there are non-motile spores which are called as aplanospores. These zygospores are formed by the union of gametes. So these gametes can be of two types, isogamous or anisogamous. And if we see the example of these phycomycetes, it includes mucor, rhizopus, which is also commonly called as bread mold, and albugo. So this is a picture of rhizopus. You can see the mycelium and the hyphae connecting the conidiospores. Now we come to the second group of fungi, that is called as ascomycetes. So what are ascomycetes? They are commonly referred to as sac fungi. Due to their typical shape of the body, they are mostly multicellular, for example penicillium. Sometimes they are unicellular, for example yeast. They are saprophytes, that means they are feeding onto the dead decaying matter, so they are the major decomposers of the ecosystem. Sometimes they are even parasitic or coprophilous, that means they grow onto the dung. Mycelium, if we see, their mycelium is branched and septate in appearance, and if we see the reproduction, it can be done sexually by sexual spores, that is ascospores. That ascus means sac. So these spores are growing in a sac-like structure, and asexual spores which are called as conidia or conidiospores. Finally, examples of these ascomycete include Aspergillus, Claviceps and Neurospora. So in this picture you can see a typical Aspergillus cell. Now we come to the third group of fungi, that is Basidiomycetes. So Basidiomycetes are commonly known as mushrooms, bracket fungi, or sometimes puffballs. So these are the examples of Basidiomycetes. They grow in the moist areas, on soil, logs or even trees. Wherever they find suitable moist condition, they will grow. Here the mycelium is branched and septate in appearance. Asexual spores are not produced by these Basidiomycetes, but vegetative reproduction is very common by the process of fragmentation. Now the sexual mode, if we see, karyogamy and meiosis is the major another mode of reproduction seen in the Basidiomycetes, and they produce 4 basidiospores. If we see the example of these Basidiomycetes, it includes all the mushroom species, for example, Agaricus, Eustylago and Puccinia, which is also called as a rust fungus. So in this picture, you can see different type of mushrooms which are the representative of Basidiomycetes. In this picture also you can have some more mushroom species. Finally, we'll come to the next group, that is Deuteromycetes. So what is meant by Deuteromycetes? These are also called as imperfect fungi because only asexual or vegetative phase is known in this organism. Sexual stages of these Deuteromycetes are only seen only in the Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. So the major mode of reproduction is the asexual mode or the vegetative mode of reproduction. The mycelium here is septate and branched in appearance, okay, and the example includes Alternaria, Colotrichium and Trichoderma. So in this picture you can see different Deuteromycetes. Now let's come to the third part of today's discussion, that is introduction to the kingdom Plantae. So after completing this section, learner should be able to understand the basic characteristics of the kingdom Plantae and what are the different groups which are present in the kingdom Plantae. So let's first study the different basic characteristics of the kingdom Plantae. So plants, they are basically multicellular organisms and they are omnipresent in most of the environments. They are eukaryotic cells and they contain chlorophyll pigment in the cell, which is a very important characteristics due to which they can produce or they can do the photosynthesis and prepare their own food material. So they act like a food for the entire ecosystem. Now if we see, the characteristic feature in the form of a cell wall is present in the kingdom Plantae, which is made up of cellulose. Then they are autotrophic, preparing their own food material, so they are photosynthetic in nature. They are non-motile. This is another characteristic, so they cannot move from one place to the another, and the reproduction can be asexual as well as sexual, or it can be vegetative. So when we see asexual mode of reproduction, it is done with the help of spores. The sexual mode of reproduction is done with the help of gametes, and the vegetative mode can be through the different parts of the body of that particular plant. So this kingdom Plantae include different groups of organism like algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. So let's study each one by one. So the first group of the kingdom Plantae is algae, which is also commonly referred by another name, that is Thallophyta. So algae or thallophytes are the plants which do not have a differentiated body. So they do not have a peculiar parts of a typical plant like root, stem and leaves. So these are absent. So they have a body structure which is called as thalloid structure. They are also referred as a simple plants or lower plants. Now they are predominantly aquatic. So their habitat is the aquatic areas and they are autotrophs. Basic characteristic, they can prepare their own food with the chlorophyll pigment and sunlight. Their reproduction, if we see, it is asexual mode of reproduction with the production of different type of spores without production of flowers and seeds as it is seen in the higher plants. So the example of these organisms includes Spirogyra, Cladophora and Chara. These are the examples of the algae. Now we can see a typical algae growing in the moist aquatic areas near the river or the lake area. You can see this mad growth of these algae. Now we come to the second group of the kingdom Plantae, that is bryophytes. So what are bryophytes? First of all, this is the most diverse group. First of all, it is the most diverse group of the plants found on the planet Earth and most diverse after the angiosperms. The most diverse group being the angiosperm, followed by the bryophytes. They are also called as amphibious plants because they can live both in the water areas as well as onto the land. So they are amphibious in nature because for part of their life cycle they require water, so to complete their life cycle in the form of sexual reproduction. So during the reproduction time they will require the water. That's why they are referred to as amphibious in nature. Now if we see, the body is differentiated into stem and leaf-like structures. Now there is no vascular tissue like xylem or any other vascular tissue present in the there is no vascular tissue like xylem is present in the body of this organism. Now if we see the reproduction, they reproduce by spores, and most of them play a very important role to prevent the erosion of the soil. So example includes mosses, so all the mosses which are growing in the aquatic areas, as well as Marchantina is one of the moss species which is growing in the aquatic areas. So in this picture you can see different forms of the bryophytes that can be observed in nature. Now we come to the next group of kingdom Plantae, that is called as pteridophytes. So pteridophytes are also referred to as vascular plants. So from pteridophyte onwards the vascular tissue was developed. So in the course of evolution, pteridophyte is the first group in which you will find the presence of vascular tissues. So in these pteridophytes, body of the plant is differentiated. Body of the plant is differentiated into root, stem and leaves. So a typical distinction of the body can be done. They have the specialized tissue of conduction, so they have xylem for the conduction of water, and some of them reproduce by formation of spores, that is asexual mode of reproduction. They are called as cryptogams, and most of them produce seeds, that is the sexual mode of reproduction, so in which there occurs embryo formation, and this embryo having the stored food material for the germination of the seed. Now these pteridophytes are further classified. So pteridophytes are nothing but cryptogams, are further classified into two groups based upon whether the seeds which are produced by these plants are naked or they are enclosed in fruits. So these two groups are gymnosperms and angiosperms. So what is meant by gymnosperms? Those having naked seeds, those organisms are classified into gymnosperms, and angiosperms are those organisms or plants which have seeds enclosed inside the fruit. In this picture you can see different types of pteridophytes. So fern or Nephrolepis is one of the well-known example of the pteridophytes. Now we will study the first group of these pteridophytes, that is gymnosperms. So gymnosperm is a Greek word. Literally the gymnos word means the naked and sperm means the seed. So gymnosperm are those plants which have naked seeds. Here the vascular plants are well developed for the conduction of food material as well as water. So they have xylem for conduction of water and phloem for the conduction of the food. Now these plants are perennial in nature. What is meant by perennial? They can live for many years and they cover almost all the areas like evergreen to woody habitats. They produce cones. Now this is another peculiar feature of these gymnosperm, that they produce cones in their body which protect the seeds, and these cones are not the fruits. So the protective function is given by this cone-like structure present on the body. There are some 4,588 well-known species of these gymnosperms. Out of these, 1,088 are the accepted species names. And most common members of these gymnosperm include pines like Deodar and other members. So in this picture, you can see different representatives of these gymnosperms like Thuja, pine are some of the example of the gymnosperms. Now we come to the last part of these plants, or the last group, second group of these pteridophytes, that is angiosperms. So angiosperms means the flowering plants which bear seeds in their fruits. Okay, so very peculiar feature of angiosperm is having seed in the fruit. So angiosperm is the most diverse group. So you have the largest number of species present in the angiosperms. Their reproductive structures are in the form of flowers, and these flowers have the ovules in which is enclosing the ovary, and this will further give rise to the fruits. So fruit is the protective structure in the angiosperms which gives protection to the seeds, and it display a very large diversity, as I already told, that it includes trees, herbs, submerged aquatic plants, bulbs, as well as some epiphytes which are growing onto the other trees. And there are estimated 352,000 species of the flowering plants or angiosperms which are documented till date. In this picture, you can see different angiosperm or the flowering plants. So with this we conclude this last part of the kingdom Plantae. So let's conclude today's lecture with this final part of today's discussion, that is introduction to the kingdom Animalia. So this is the fifth kingdom by the system which was proposed by R.H. Whitaker. So after completing this, the learner should be able to understand the basic characteristics of the kingdom Animalia and different groups which are present in the Animalia. So let's first study the basic characteristics of the kingdom Animalia. Now these are the organisms which are multicellular eukaryotic organisms. They have the true nucleus and cell-bound organelles. They have the tissue and organ level of organization. Now very peculiar feature of the organisms in Animalia is that cell wall is absent. They lack cell wall. They are always heterotrophic in their nutrition. That means they cannot synthesize their food, but they are dependent on other organisms for their food requirement. They are motile, and locomotion is done by various specialized organs which have developed over the course of evolution. And if we see the mode of reproduction, they always show the sexual mode of reproduction. So this takes place with the formation of gametes. Now this kingdom Animalia is further divided largely into non-chordates and chordates. So non-chordates basically are the lower organisms which lack the presence of notochord and nerve cord. So this is represented by different phyla like Annelida, Mollusca, Platyhelminths, Coelentrates, followed by Arthropoda and higher groups. On the contrary, we have the chordates which have the formation of nerve cord and notochord, notochord being replaced by the vertebral column, and this includes all the higher group of organism like Pisces. You have the amphibia, reptiles, aves and mammals. Now these organisms belonging to the kingdom Animalia can be further classified into different phyla like protozoans. So these animals which are belonging to the kingdom Animalia can be further divided into different groups like Porifera, Coelentrata, Platyhelminths, nematodes, annelids, arthropoda, mollusca, echinodermata and higher vertebrates. Now we come to the last part of today's discussion. What were the different merits and demerits of this system? So first demerit was some organisms which are acellular in nature were not included by the five kingdom system of Whitaker. So this includes prions, viroids and viruses and lichens. So since they are not included in this system, in this picture you can see lichens. So what are lichens? Basically it is a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungi. So both are benefited by this symbiotic relationship. Then you have viruses. which are also not included. So these viruses being dependent on the host, they are not alive, but they require the host for their survival. You have the viroids, which are still smaller than the viruses and which are acellular in nature, dependent on the host for their survival. Okay, now we come to the merits of these 5 kingdom classification system. So what were the major important contribution of this system or the merits? First of all, the kingdom Animalia become more homogeneous since the protozoans are now separated into a single kingdom. Then kingdom Plantae also become more homogeneous because there was exclusion of bacteria, fungi and some unicellular algae. Okay, so earlier they were included into the plants. Now you have the establishment of the 5th kingdom, that is fungi. So all fungi were shifted into the kingdom fungi, and some unicellular eukaryotes which were present in the kingdom Animalia, they were classified into the kingdom Protista. There was separation of the fungi from plants, which was the most important contribution of this 5 kingdom system. That is, the 5th kingdom was established, which was solely dedicated to all the fungi. Then there was phylogenetic relationship was established with this help of this 5 kingdom classification system. So this was another major merit we can say of the 5 kingdom classification system. Now we continue with these merits. There was better relationship was established between the organisms at different levels of organization. There was separation, clear cut. Different groups were organized based on their mode of nutrition. Better evolutionary relationship and trends were established between different group of organisms, and some controversial group of organisms like cyanobacteria, fungi or euglena, which were not properly placed in previous 4 kingdom classification system, they got a proper place in this system of classification. And as we said, very important step was separation of the fungi from the kingdom Plantae. Now we come to the last part of today's discussion, that is demerits of this 5 kingdom classification system. So Monera and Protista, this kingdom are still heterogeneous in this system because some organisms which are not fitting into this group, still they were classified into the Monerans and Protist. Phylogeny in lower organism is not fully reflected with the help of this 5 kingdom classification system. Slime molds which were classified into the kingdom Protista, however they do not fit to the characteristics of the kingdom Protista, so that is a controversial group being added to the Protist. Red and brown algae are not related to other members of the kingdom Plantae, still they are included in that kingdom. And viruses, viroids, prions and lichens, these organisms which are acellular in nature were not included in the 5 kingdom system. So these were the major drawbacks or the demerits of the 5 kingdom classification system. So assignment for today's lecture will be explain in detail the merits and demerits of the 5 kingdom classification system and submit it on your Google Classroom by 12th of November. Let's take a quick summary of today's lecture. So in today's lecture, we have studied the remaining 4 kingdoms of the 5 kingdom system proposed by R.H. Whittaker. So we have studied what are protists, what are their basic characteristics and how those were classified into different groups. Then we have studied the basic characteristics of the 3rd kingdom, that is kingdom fungi, how they were classified into different groups and their basic characteristics. Then we have studied the 4th kingdom of the system, that is kingdom Plantae, what are their basic characteristics and their classification into different groups. So we have seen the different groups of the Plantae like algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. And finally we have studied the basic characteristics of the kingdom Animalia and their classification into non-chordates and chordates and the reason for the same. And finally, we have concluded with the merits and demerits of the system which were there for this 5 kingdom classification system proposed by R.H. Whittaker. So with this we conclude today's lecture. Thank you. So let's take a brief recap of the next lecture. In next lecture we are going to deal with the 2 phyla from the kingdom Animalia, that is kingdom Protozoa and kingdom Porifera. We are going to deal with the general characteristics and the general outline of classification of phylum Protozoa and phylum Porifera. Thank you. Have a safe time. See you in the next lecture.